get much worse? You got an answer for everything, don't you?
I screamed like a 12-year-old.
I screamed like a 12-year-old too. All right. Welcome to Enterprise at 8. This is the podcast where we rewatch Star Trek Enterprise, everybody's favorite Star Trek, even Kevin's. Right, Kevin?
Especially Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, it is now.
3 episodes in, it's already my favorite.
It's already a favorite now. Okay, excellent. Anyway, welcome. What are we doing now, Dave?
Intros.
We're doing intros. Okay. Obviously, my co-host, which is now on this side, actually. Oh, there he is, Mr. Adam Woodward. How are you today, Adam?
I'm good. I'm really good. How are you?
Has it been a long road for you today?
Getting from there to here, yes.
Dave, that would have been a perfect time for the banner.
I They
All
say
right.
that people aren't working back in their offices, guys. I was just in Toronto. I don't know where the traffic is for all these people that aren't working in their offices. It was an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on the road about a half an hour ago to an hour ago and coming back from Hamilton, and it was super busy. So I personally don't know where they are either. Maybe they're going to Toronto, those ones. So who knows? Anyway.
Who else we got, Jody?
We also have Kevin Millard, who is better known as the Enterprise superfan.
Yeah.
Right.
How are you today, Kevin?
That's my new Twitter, Enterprise Superfan.
That's what he's always got the
You know
tweet-
he's lying
tweets
because he
going.
would never have a Twitter account.
No, yeah, it's pretty quiet over there, but you know, it's,
And of course, the ever amazing Dave Mader, also
course.
producer Dave Mader.
I'm here.
He is pretty amazing, I've noticed over the
He
years.
is very amazing. If it
well-
wasn't for him, none of the stuff on this channel would even
It's
happen.
absolutely true. You are pretty amazing, Dave.
Thank you. I don't know what to say.
We caught you off guard.
I speak. I have many skills, including speaking slug.
I didn't realize you spoke slug.
Indeed.
That's true.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Any
Okay.
chance to use that soundboard, you're there, eh?
Yeah. I was like, I gotta force it in.
I gotta force this joke. Yeah.
I gotta force this. I have this soundbite, and when am I going to use it? So,
Do you want to do that test video, Dave?
yeah. So we have a new intro, a countdown. That this is first time we've ever tried to use this. It has a bit of existing footage, music, whatever. So we don't know what it will do, but I didn't want. We're gonna try it out. So bear with us. Unveiling the new countdown.
Let's go.
You can't be
Let's
afraid
go.
of the wind. That's for sure.
That was pretty. Let's go for sure.
Was something
And
that
speaking of let's go, maybe we should just go. What do you think? Let's
Where are we going?
Oh, we are going to episode number 3, Dave. Fight or Flight. It's been
Oh,
20 years since this episode aired, man.
maybe I'll fight. Maybe I'll flight. Who's to say?
Well, we don't know, but they could have also called this Yoshi's story because that's pretty much what it is. The entire episode really does center around her for the most part. It's very
Mhm.
much actually it's Hoshi. Sorry, I always say Yoshi, but it's Hoshi, right?
So she
Anyway,
is.
I always say Yoshi because I'm kind of a video game guy. So
Mm-hmm.
it is not the green dinosaur. It is the lady who does translations on the Enterprise. All right. So anyway,
so can I ask a question before we start?
you can ask many questions.
In Netflix, it showed this is episode 2.
It is because Netflix always puts the pilot episode, if it's a 2-parter, together as one episode.
Right.
But
So
it is
this is-
technically the 3rd episode
Got it.
because we watched the first 2 at the
Right.
beginning, right? So anyway, yes.
This comes up on some of the other rewatches. Yeah, anytime there's a 2-parter, it gets combined as one episode. So yeah,
Unless
the
it's on
numbering-
2 different seasons.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
in two
and
different
then the
seasons,
numbers
I think.
are all off.
Then the numbers
then-
are all off.
And then Dave made the spreadsheet, and then there's mass hysteria, cats and dogs living together.
So we're
What are
already
you gonna
screwed
do?
up. We're screwed up on the second or third episode, is what you're saying.
No, this is the third episode.
This is technically the third episode.
It
but it's-
aired separate as well as the other two did, so this is the third
Alright.
episode.
Are you saying you
And,
watched the wrong episode?
No, I watched this one.
Okay, good. Okay,
Is he pretending, do you think? Or does he
maybe.
actually
Well,
know?
we're gonna
quiz,
ask questions.
we're
What
gonna quiz
happened
you
in
later.
this episode?
We're quizzing
What
you
was
later
the
anyway.
how it
What were
opened.
the aliens named? Were they?
That-
This is the
Archer
longest
was on the
intro
floor
ever, so we should
listening
probably
to
get
the
moving here.
floorboards. He was on the floor. That's how we start this episode.
Wow,
Yes.
I just gotta share this here quickly.
I'm not
Reporters
crying,
of
you're-
Trek says, "I'm not crying. You're crying." All right. Anyway, I guess he was touched by the theme.
The
music
video.
there.
He liked it. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like,
maybe he did like it. We'll see. We'll find out later. Actually, he mentioned that as well. But anyway, let's keep going. Anyway, this is the episode where a derelict ship in the derelict ship is found and a dead crew has been discovered. But who killed them? That's
wait,
really what we're going to
before
find
that,
out.
The slug, Jody. Don't you forget
It
about
wasn't
the slug?
You know what? Spoiler alerts. It wasn't the slug.
But
It could have been though.
is this story really about Hoshi or is it really about the slug?
I think it's about Hoshi and her lack of ability to actually be in space. And she
Yeah.
obviously decided to jump on things before she realized that, she was going to be in environmental suits and, be in space and stuff like that. And I actually, Dave, I even kind of gave her a little bit of a nod here, but not really a nod. But I'm gonna flip it over to that joined Starfleet to escape Earth, hates space too.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, but obviously not Hoshi. But
Well, yeah, she's a very underprepared astronaut, I gotta say.
Well,
Isn't it
yeah.
a psychological test that gets you on board a starship?
You would think so, but I think Archer was so desperate for a translator that she just slipped through, and that was the end of it. So
She
I
might be
guess
the
they weren't
reason
really
they do
going
that
to-
now.
sorry, Kevin. What?
She might be the reason they do that now. Like they do that in the future.
maybe they just assumed everybody likes to fly around in space and be in environmental suits, and
Yeah,
but
but
she
actually-
said she went through the training and she bit her lip and bared it, as she said.
She's a translator. She's not here to look at corpses.
I'm a translator. I didn't come out here to see corpses hanging on hooks.
Nope. No. She translates.
It's just a
Indeed.
perk.
And speaking of the corpses, Dave, we should probably get into the episode, I guess. So
Yeah, let's get in.
it starts off with essentially Hoshi and Phlox talking about this snail that they've encountered, and I guess people are just getting a little kind of bored of the life of not finding any new life. I guess is really what it's come down to. They mentioned it's been 2 weeks and haven't run into anything, and they're a little disappointed now. And apparently, I have a dog barking, but sorry about that.
It's 2 weeks, Jody. It's just 2 weeks.
You know what, though? 2 weeks is like a lifetime on the Enterprise. Let's be honest. A lot can happen in 2 weeks.
I mean, you wouldn't want a 2-week break after the last mission? I would. That was
Yeah, like not
Yeah,
only that,
this-
but you still have T'Pol walking around going, I told you so. But, past that, it's, what are you going to do, right? You find a snail, you deal with the snail. I guess that's really what it comes down to. So
You find the snail. That's the biggest bout of excitement, and then they get a lot of excitement in this episode. I think what does stand out to me is they chose Hoshi to be like the feature character this early because she's such like sort of a
see, this to me, Dave, is kind of like, when you were a kid and there was like a couple things on your plate at dinner time that you really enjoyed, and then there's one thing you hated. And maybe what happened is they decided to eat the peas before they had the steak.
Right.
I think that might have been what was going on here. So maybe they wanted to just kind of let Hoshi kind of simmer a bit and then maybe get to something better later on. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Hoshi, as anybody might know, but
did this turn you around on it? Did you like Hoshi more after this?
no. I can't say I did. I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think?
Well, you know what? I didn't I remember things sort of later in the show the first time I watched it, because I don't remember this being so early. And if I did, I don't know why I liked it beyond this episode, honestly, because this was just annoying to me. I didn't really love it, guys. I really did not love this episode. It's going to be a lower score.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this was a great episode, in my opinion, either. What do you think, Kevin?
I think it had some good elements. I was enjoying it. Well, like them coming up to the ship and finding and the mystery of it. I enjoyed all of that. But then Archer just starts complaining about Vulcans again, and then she's getting mad at T'Pol, and I'm just like, I'm over this. Like I don't. What was the point of that? Why? Like, I thought it was a shame because I'm like, I was enjoying this episode, and now I'm not.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what this episode in a way is. It's got some good things though, because it shows a lot of the routine stuff. The one thing I really like about this episode is it shows the downtime. It shows the time where everybody's just kind of sitting around going, what are we doing now, kind of thing. We never saw that in the other series. There was always excitement constantly, right? Like there was always something going on. There wasn't too much monotony. Well, maybe DS9 there was a little, but like Enterprise, Next Gen, for instance, Next Gen, the adventure always started like at the beginning of the episode. Like there wasn't a lot of startup, right? Whereas this is kind of like, they're just all just kind of sitting there like, what are we going to do? Like, I think Archer's whining about a deck plate, it's like
these type of episodes are necessary. Deep Space Nine has a lot of them where you're learning about the characters. Like it's boring, but you're getting to know the characters. I don't mind Hoshi. I hope that she gets less fearful as time goes on. But at the beginning, she does. Yeah.
I won't spoil it too much for you, but she does. I definitely like her in later seasons than I do now. The first season with her, there's something about her that just rubs me the wrong way, kind of like Archer rubs with you, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did like the fact that like we got to see, the fact that, they got the phase pistols and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. And I loved how they actually showed like the loading mechanism on them and stuff like that. I thought that was really neat from a props viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other protocols that they do, like for instance, the shuttle going upside down, I thought was one of the coolest things. Because we never saw that in any of the Star Trek, as far as I remember. It was always like everything was always level and on. It's like
when they dock with the other ship.
Yeah, they just coordinate. They don't have to flip around and do a tube or anything like that. And I do like the scene where they do the boarding, which we haven't got to yet. But the boarding where the tube comes up, they board, they flip upside down, then they go to board, and what's his name is sitting there and he's ready to like explode the door. And Archer's just like, sorry, can't use your charges this time,
We've got to find Mr. Reed something to blow up.
Yes, Mr. Reed always needs something to blow up. Let's be honest. I like the fact that they're starting to establish some of the character traits and stuff like that. But anyway, Dave, sorry, we didn't ask you your opinion on that.
On what specifically?
Just overall, like, the fact that you have the episode where it's just showing you kind of the monotony of Star Trek. Like, did you feel that was something that was useful?
Well, I've seen it before. It's even less credible in some ways because this is supposed to be the first Star Trek, and none of the planets have been explored yet by humans, at least. And so there should be loads of worlds. But I liked how they're like, well, what about the Vulcan star charts, T'Pol? And she's like, this is not somewhere we care about going, and if we see a species, we probably don't talk to them. My people don't share your enthusiasm for exploration.
My people don't share your enthusiasm for exploration.
Yes,
which kind of doesn't make sense because the Vulcans are the ones that saw that humans had warp capability and then got really curious about them.
Right.
And then interfered with their development and
for a century
brought them up. So they do have interest in other species.
Well, they do, but I think there has to be a line. There has to be a line of, I think they're not interested in any species that doesn't have warp capabilities. I think they just don't give a shit. They're like, oh, these people aren't useful to us at all. They can't go into space, so screw them, kind of thing. So I think in a way it's almost like the, what do I want to, I can never remember the word, but almost like they're better than everybody else kind of thing. They got they're very pretentious, the Vulcans. Pretentious, I guess, is one way to say it. Yeah. So it's almost like, in a way, like they even mentioned that in First Contact, where, you know, if you don't get that ship into orbit and hit warp so they can detect you, this isn't going to happen. Like you know, this whole thing will not happen, blah, blah, blah. So, and, you know, obviously Archer mentions that even in the first episode about Zephyr Cochrane's flight. So in a way it makes sense, I guess. But yeah, no, I totally understand where you're going on that one, Kevin, for sure.
You know what, again, though, they've been out 2 weeks. And I really think that they're just trying to show that the impatience of this crew and wanting to get started. You know, I think that, you know, the Chris Pine movie, the last one, you know, that starts off with the monotony of space, but they've been out for months or years at that point.
Right.
Yeah, it was like a year and a half, I think, total. He was out at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did have a pretty, you know, hectic first mission. So like to Kevin's point earlier, yeah, like it seemed like they think they'd be like, whew, and maybe this is at the time where like they're coming down from the adrenaline of that, you know. Archer nearly died, his dog nearly died. He got put through the transporter.
But again, like, I mean, and not from Star Trek, you know, I know the distances between things in space. And you know, I think that they would have some kind of awareness that they're not going to run into everything every week.
I took exobiology. I know the statistics.
Yeah, it's what 1 in 43,000 planets is inhabited or something like that.
Right.
They said.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's obviously there's a massive amount of monotony, and I kind of like the fact that they showed some of that. It's something you didn't get a glimpse at with Next Gen at all. There was always something to do for the most part.
Yeah, but they have things to do. They've got to get the weapons working. They've got to fine tune their sensors. They've got stuff to do.
Yeah, but this crew doesn't have all that because they don't have these weapons that are as good as they had in the Enterprise and stuff like that. These guys have like basic utility weapons.
Yeah,
like,
but Malcolm still can't shoot one. He can't shoot.
What's he been doing for 2 weeks?
Yeah, exactly.
Who?
Malcolm.
Malcolm? Training to blow up shit. That's what he's
not
doing.
Not very good at it.
No.
Like he's
not a Geordi level engineer yet.
No. He'll get there about the third season is when they start asking for miracles from him.
But it's not just him. I mean, it's not just, you know, it's a Trip too. You know, oh, come on, Captain, I want to see something here. I came out to explore. No, you're the engineer here. You got to stay on the ship.
Yeah, like what are you doing? Get back there, you know. And there's actually a scene earlier on where, you know, they find out that they're going to be going across and they want to have Hoshi as the translator there, you know, and he's telling her like, suit up, you know, we need you kind of thing. And she's like, oh, I'm claustrophobic and all that. So, you know, there's a place for everybody on this ship. And clearly Trip doesn't understand that. So Trip's always like, I'm second in command. Like, come on, I get to go out, don't I? You know, Riker never fucking went anywhere. Like sometimes he went there and sometimes Picard did. And it was once in a blue moon, but you know, Picard.
But Jody, the stars are going the wrong way.
The stars are going the wrong way, sir.
They are going the wrong way. And this is showing us the struggle of Hoshi's having, realizing that she's actually an astronaut and she isn't just going on some sort of pleasure cruise.
In the simulations, her room was on the port side. Now it's on the starboard side. Very confusing.
Well, the stars are going the wrong way. Like it's you know, that's a logical thing. If I'm going to sleep in a car, I want to sleep facing the direction I'm going.
But hold on a second. Even that's wrong.
Wouldn't the stars all be going the same direction?
Yes, you're moving from one side of the ship to
No, because it depends on how you're sitting.
No.
Okay, so if you're on the starboard side, which is what she's saying she's on the starboard side of the ship to start this episode. That means that's the right side if you're like facing forward, right? And so right now she's on the port side. So,
but she said the stars are going the wrong way. They would go the same way.
They would go the same way.
Yeah,
but I guess maybe which way her bed.
Like if you're sitting in the passenger seat in a car,
but maybe the bunks are only
everything is still going the same direction.
Exactly. You know,
unless you're in a unless you're on a bus with
or bow, it'd be different. But she's not. She's on the port and the starboard. It's like the sides of the ship. It's going the same way.
Yeah, I'm with Adam on this. I think
that's it. We're done. This episode sucked.
Anyway, she's gonna switch rooms with so and so.
You know what? I knew I hated Hoshi for a reason, and now I have firm proof as to why.
Yeah, but the captain bought it. The captain bought it. He was like, "Okay, it makes sense. Make your change."
No, the captain was just like, you know what, Hoshi, you're a whiner, but who cares? We'll just.
He's like, whatever. I got nothing better to do. I got a dying slug.
He's sick day. He's got to listen to his floor plates.
Yeah, listen like floor plates. You hear that?
T'Pol's got to be condescending.
Yeah.
What else?
T'Pol's got to argue with me later. I don't have time for this shit. right? Like that's pretty much what it is. Anyway,
Like,
all right, so
this is a
all right,
hard
let's
crew to like right now.
let's get a little bit harder into this. So basically, they come across the disabled ship, or at least that's
Well,
what they
before that,
think.
Travis and Malcolm were doing like the torpedo stuff. They were
Which
doing,
Oh,
that was
that's right.
funny.
Yes,
That was funny.
yeah, okay. They were shooting out the torpedoes. You go ahead and you explain that then, Adam.
well, they were doing the simulations, and it was like, I don't know, those
You're not
computer.
Adam.
That's okay. Dave can take it.
Oh,
It's fine, Dave. Go ahead.
oh no, it's fine. They were doing tactical simulations. The computers, they looked pretty rudimentary. It looked like they were playing like 1980s Pong or something. They or something like. It was very underwhelming in that simulation. And they're
It's
like,
true.
well, we better get up there and blow up some kind of rock or something. We got, like we said earlier, we got to find something for Reed to blow up.
Reed likes to blow
We
up.
got to find
stuff.
Mr.
What's
Reed
the problem?
something to blow up.
And then his torpedoes suck. These torpedoes, they you know,
They're not good.
They're not good.
No.
not good. And then, you know, he's like, it doesn't work. And he's like, well, how long do you fix it? He's like, 24 hours. And he's like, okay, let's go. And then Reed's all like pissy about it. He's like,
Well,
what the?
I think Reed's more pissed off at the fact that the thing that he thought was going to work isn't working, and now he looks kind of like a clown, right?
It sort of reminded
So-
me of Generations. You know, when is it going to be here? Oh, Tuesday. You know,
Oh yes, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. You left Starbase without a full medical staff. Yeah,
Without a
or
tractor
whatever.
beam for that matter.
Yeah, or a tractor beam. Well, it's coming out on Tuesday.
Coming on Tuesday.
It's funny. I actually watched a video. I can't remember. I think it was Trek Culture that did it. It was like, you know, the 10 most stupidest things to happen in Star Trek, and that was one of that was Tuesday. That was the title card, Tuesday.
it's
But anyway.
stayed with me forever, Jody. Whenever something is wrong in my life, it's coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's coming on Tuesday. Don't worry about it. So
And before Jody, they found the crew. Don't know if it was also that scene with Phlox and Tucker in the mess hall where, you know, he's like,
oh yes,
Phlox is like, I know in Denoblians, I guess they would never talk while eating. Eating's like,
yes, and he was so excited to be able to like talk with people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that there's a smelly ensign?
Have you smelled Ensign Socorro after she exercises? He gives off a fragrance not unlike the adrenal gland of a Nausicaan.
So we've
like this
established a
scene.
couple things about Phlox. Number one, he's a stalker.
He's great.
He's
just
also a
great.
voyeur.
I love Phlox though. Phlox
Yes,
is the best part
definitely a
of the show.
voyeur.
He's
Yeah.
like, hey, see those two over there? They're about to do it.
They are preparing to mate. Do you think they might let me watch?
I think they might let me watch. So I don't know about you guys, but when you hear this type of dialogue in a Star Trek show, you forget that you're watching a Star Trek show. Because that's what I did when I hit this. For a second, I was like, "What am I watching?" And then it's like, "Oh yeah, this is Star Trek."
You know what else
Yeah.
though, Jody? I think it also reminds you is that, you know, while the humans are very interested in exploring, you've got somebody on board who's new to humanity.
Exploring humanity. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why I like his character so much. He gets so excited about a meal.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just conversation. And-
Right.
It's almost like having, you know, like an 8-year-old kid excited about everything, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and-
and
well,
in a way, that's how some of the other characters were supposed to be. I
Right.
think.
That's exactly right. While everybody else on the ship is like, you know, moping around because they have to do run of the mill stuff, he's excited with just learning about people.
Well, Phlox is
Exactly.
one of the best characters on this show.
Yes, agreed.
Like, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure.
Like,
I would agree with you on that for sure.
for a lot of the reasons that Adam put it out, yeah, that he's just got this joy to life, you know, that is kind of infectious. He's happy. He likes his job. I'm like, I get juxtaposed to Hoshi, who doesn't really like. She likes things about her job, but she doesn't
And
like that.
Archer. I find that Archer doesn't really like his job very much either. He always
Right.
seems
He wants
angry.
he wants the excitement, but he doesn't want all the monotony.
Yeah.
So he's almost like the anti-captain. Like they've made
I'm
him
captain of the
out
Starship
necessity, not out
Enterprise.
of, you know, not because he wanted to be, right? Like it's one of those things, and I think that's part of the issue.
But I
But
think he's got a staff that just suck. At this point.
well,
Some of
they
them.
definitely suck now.
No, at
I
this
would,
point, I said at this point. I mean, they're just
yeah, at this
learning
point
the-
they definitely suck. Like he's learning that, like, pretty much, like, number one, his tactical advisor essentially just screwed up the like one major weapon that they have. You have a translator who cannot deal with what's going on. Like he's
Stars are
seeing,
going the wrong way.
the stars are going the wrong way. Like he's dealing with all the monotony of being a captain and none of the fun that, you know, Kirk is going to have, for instance, or any of those guys. Right. So in a way, and I think that's kind of what has soured a lot of people in this show is the fact that they get to see a different side of what Starfleet is in a way, because a lot of the things that are going to happen, especially in the first season, which we're going to eventually hit, you're going to see a lot of screw ups. You're going to see a lot of things that they did wrong because there's no protocol in place yet.
But that's
right?
okay.
So,
that's okay. But I think that the way they're presenting is different. But you can also tell why Archer's like always defensive around T'Pol. Because he's got like she's just looking at his team and going, oh
well,
boy.
He feels like he just feels like he's constantly being under scrutiny, right? So it's
and really they're not ready. They have
no, they're not ready, and that's but that's something that they even said at the beginning of the first episode was you're not ready, but they're going out anyway, right?
Well,
so
it's also about like how humans are different than Vulcans, and in some ways the Vulcans have the right idea, but in some ways the humans do too. And I think this episode is trying to make that point. You know, but because I keep thinking like T'Pol keeps advising caution, and I'm not really remembering this episode. I was like, she's gonna be right. Like it's gonna be like Archer's gonna get his comeuppance, but no, it's kind of the opposite here. You know,
this is the reverse of the first episode.
Earlier, she goes, you know, you guys just got to look at everything you're curious about.
If you insist on allowing your curiosity to dictate your actions.
They're like we insist.
Yeah, I love that line. Well, and you know what? There's even the scene where they first find the derelict ship, right? And he goes, you know, are our biosensors working? And she goes, yes, but that could be considered, you know, an act of, being against them, right? Yeah, it could be intrusive to them. Like, and that's a very good point, though. Like, you can't just run around doing whatever the fuck you want in space. Like, there's other alien cultures, you know, all this, right? So they have to learn that.
But Archer does acknowledge that. She goes, you know, she could be right, you know.
Well, and this is where you start seeing the line change with him, because as the next couple of episodes will show us, is he starts to more rely on the fact that she is knowledgeable. She does know what the fuck's going on, and maybe she should be listened to. Where in the first episode, it was almost the entire episode. He's like, you know what? Fuck T'Pol. You know, all she does is sit here and bitch at me. She never, she never does anything, productive. She's just whining all the time at me, and I want to go out and be adventurous and be in space, right? And it didn't work out well for him until he started listening to her, and then eventually she got command for a little while and she ended up doing her own thing. But it's one of those things that we start seeing more and more, and that's one of the things I like about this series is they do progress the characters way more extreme than they did in all the other shows, in my opinion, with the exception of DS9. There's a lot of really good extreme character development in DS9.
Yeah, and Kevin, it does get better. Like there is a lot of in. That's right.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
So Jody's right. They come a long way in a short time.
They do.
I think you're actually
all
a little more down on this episode than I am. I didn't mind it.
I didn't mind the episode. I'm not going to be as down as these guys are.
There's little things I don't like, but.
Yeah,
I didn't like how it ended. I don't get
the ending's really dumb.
We could have done without the slug entirely.
Well, it's the whole ending, which we'll get to eventually, but essentially the ending is just to show that Hoshi's growing. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I
Hoshi's
got it.
It's just way overdone.
Nuanced at all. I got it.
You're gonna do just fine.
Yeah, they could have literally hit you with a bat, and it would have been the exact same effect.
She's like the little slug that could.
Didn't they watch The Simpsons though? Like honestly,
it's been well. At least that one's not sexually attracted to fire, but that's a whole other issue. Anyway.
Well, the whole thing with like T'Pol and Archer, I think, is a problem with the show because they eventually do get on the same page, I guess, a little bit, but
they do. But it takes probably the half of the first season to really get there. Like we're gonna have this infighting for. Oh yeah, we're gonna have this
until season 2, Jody. Really?
Oh no, no. At the end of season 1, you get a lot more of teaming up and teamwork.
I don't even remember Janeway and Chakotay being this adversarial, or like maybe
Cisco
the first episode
of
Deep Space Nine. It was like
Cisco and Kira is probably the best example of
for like 2 episodes, and then they got on the same page, like
more or less.
No,
and then,
this is going to be at least half a season.
She becomes her messiah eventually in Kira's case, not in T'Pol's case. Like the thing, I think as a first officer and captain dynamic, they stand apart from all the others. Like you think like Kirk and Spock, like those two are thick as thieves. They got each other's backs to the end. Picard and Riker, same thing. Cisco and Kira eventually, but at the beginning, a little bit of friction, but not as much as this.
Chakotay followed Janeway out of necessity, though. It really wasn't. It wasn't the same dynamic,
Right.
But he's pretty much always like reliable. Her right hand man, pretty solid, right?
Yeah.
They have a few times that, but DePaul is always like, "Why do you got to do that? That's annoying."
But for the first couple episodes, she is going to do that. You got to remember, she doesn't really want to be there either, right? Like she's been kind of thrown onto
she
this.
could
As
have
well.
left. They said that in the pilot, but she was like,
she could have, but at this point, she has some sort of caring in her. She's really there to be the den mother of.
She's there to be like the
people
adult in the room. It feels like.
Yeah, she's really just the adult right now. Like basically, it's toddlers in space right now.
And the way they go, like the way he goes at her all the time, like every time he leaves her in charge of the ship, I'm like, what are you doing? You don't even like her. Pick somebody else. Like,
yeah, but he also realizes from the first episode that if you leave her in charge, she's going to do what's best based on his orders, right? So she's already established that she's going to follow protocol, right? And to a point where it might actually hurt them later on, which in some episodes it does. But, it's one of those things. Anyway, we've already gone 30 minutes here, and we barely scratched the surface of this episode. We probably got to get going into it.
Well, this is... Like
so
going on the mission itself,
the mission itself is essentially they derelict ship they come across. They have no idea who these people are, blah blah blah. They end up boarding it. We've kind of covered all that. When they get there in their environmental suits and whatnot, we end up discovering a whole bunch of hanging dead bodies being harvested. Essentially, they're being harvested for fluid. Kind of like what's the word? Triglobuline is what they're going, which is kind of like our lymphatic fluid, Phlox tells people. So basically, whoever has slain this entire alien race on this ship is essentially harvesting fluid from them. And they're probably coming back because they left their machines that are harvesting there. So, we kind of already know that there's going to be an encounter eventually. Okay. Yeah. But the first step they decide they're going to do is they're going to say, you know what, screw it. This is a little too much for us. Let's just fuck off. We're done. Okay. And that's kind of where we start. And that's where
where he listens to Paul again. Like it's time to go.
Yeah. Now Dave, you got a picture of the aliens there? Yeah. So we got not the best picture, I guess, to really explain the aliens, but it's a race we've never seen in Star Trek. We don't ever get them named. They're never credited. We have no idea who they are. They're just the unknown race that we'll never know about. That's basically what it is.
They said that
there is another race in this.
They said they're from Axanar.
No, Axanar is the guys that showed up.
But that's the same species. Oh no, the bad guys. We never find out who they are. Yeah.
No, we don't find out who the bad guys are at all. But these are Axanars. Axanars are actually something that goes back to the original series, which in this case is actually in the future. There's actually 2 episodes that actually directly do that. One of Kirk's first assignments as a diplomat was to Axanar, which was mentioned in Whom's God to Destroy, as well as Court Martial, 2 episodes from the original series. So these are already established aliens, but we get a better view of them now.
Axanar is only it's more referenced as a place than as the species before this, but
again,
well, they're Axanarians according to the thing, but put Aryan on the end of anything, and that's what they are.
There's the picture of the captain we meet during the episode of the other show.
Also, I mean, there's they have to bump into them more because they have to be very close still to Earth.
They're right at the beginning of the space part, right? So it makes perfect sense that this would be one of the first alien races that they come across, because this is an alien race that Kirk actually ended up coming across as well. And at that point, it's already established that they've had contact with Earth before. So,
and are they a Federation member later on? Possibly.
I don't think they are as of then. Well, they're currently not, obviously, because this takes place before that. But even in Kirk's time, I don't think they were. I think this was something that they ended up. I think they said something along the lines of it was just after. I think it was actually in the animated series that it had something to do with that. But I'll have to look that up. I don't know for sure. Either way, we end up getting across this. We see this happen. At this point, there's the let's tuck our tail and just move on kind of thing. We've seen horrors. We're done. We don't need to deal with this. But something doesn't sit right with Archer. Archer's like, we can't just leave all these bodies sitting there. That their loved ones need to know what happened. All this. He starts caring about it. Okay,
The
which apparently
dinner
is
scene?
a bad idea in space. What's that?
That like awkward dinner scene with Archer and T'Pol and Tucker.
Worst scene in the whole episode.
Yeah, he's just
Worst scene in
like,
my
I'm
opinion.
angry. He's like angry dad at dinner, and like,
Yeah,
I'm
he's just like, I'm pissed off because my kids didn't show up on time, that kind of thing. Like he's got that kind of antsy dinner crap, dad's not talking to me because I was late for dinner.
yeah, he's like, what if they were Vulcans? And she's like,
They weren't Vulcans.
Yeah.
Why the hell do
weren't
they eat together? They hate each other. Like, why do they eat together?
Well, and this is something that happened in this series as well as the original series is there is a dining hall for the upper staff, right?
Right.
Whereas
but
later
it's
on
only
in
chefs
Next
if
Gen,
you don't like each other.
yeah,
It's
but
very
in Next
different.
Gen they did do it, but it wasn't often,
Yeah, but
whereas
it's very, very military at this point.
well, this
The
is a
captains-
sub thing, right?
The captains don't eat with the crew, and that's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The submarine commanders, like all the submarine commanders in the military, they have a private dining area, and only the upper staff are allowed to eat with the captain, right? So yeah,
Right.
I'm
but they don't have to.
totally right. You don't have to, but it's kind of a tradition. It's a naval tradition for sure. I don't know if it's
Paul could just
a
go eat
tradition
in her
anymore.
quarters if they don't like each other.
She could, but honestly, how is she ever going to learn how to use a fork with a breadstick if
Why
she
can't
doesn't
Phlox
sit
come to
here
this
and learn?
dinner?
Because Phlox is an upper staff.
He's
According
not
to
even.
this.
He's not even a member of Starfleet.
Neither is T'Pol.
Neither is Paul.
Well,
She's
she's an
taken up.
ambassador, though.
She's the first
So,
officer.
she's the first officer. of
He
the
likes
ship.
conversation at dinner. If anybody should be invited to this dinner, it's Phlox. We already established that earlier in this
But
episode.
maybe
He likes
Phlox isn't there because of the fact that Phlox is going to do nothing but talk about all these alien animals that he has in his little menagerie there that he's got going on. So it's maybe that's the reason why he just
That's
talks
part
too
of-
damn much.
They're trying to establish these three as like a trio, like Kirk, Spock, McCoy. That's like what
Exactly.
they're
That's
trying to
exactly
do.
what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, exactly. And it definitely doesn't work for the first part of this season. Later on, it starts getting a little chummier, and obviously later on, a lot more chummier between Trip and T'Pol. But that's to be
More
seen
iced
later.
tea? Do you want some more iced tea, Captain?
You know what? Iced tea is just something that Trip loves, and every time he can mention Florida or anything like that, he's going to.
Do you
Paul
want more
doesn't want
tea?
your iced
Yes,
tea.
but I'm still angry.
But I'm still angry. But give me my iced tea, damn it!
Right.
And
Yeah.
Paul's a vegetarian, so literally, like everything that they serve in this room is offensive, probably.
You're a
So,
vegetarian?
and on top of that, they have a much better smell too, right? Like they.
Well, not that ensign after her workout. She smells like the adrenal gland of a Nausicaan, according to.
Well, what can you do? Sometimes
you know.
adrenal glands. So anyway, what ends up happening is obviously Archer decides, you know what? This doesn't sit right with me. I'm going back, and obviously encounter ensues. And
But
that's pretty much
like,
what
the
most of
whole
the episode
argument,
is.
like the whole thing with
There is an
T'Pol,
argument, yeah.
Like he's like, "Am I the only one?"
Am I the only one who's having a problem with this? You got an answer for everything.
don't you, T'Pol? You
If you don't want answers, don't ask questions.
Because we still have Dick Archer who doesn't want to be here. He wants to have the adventure, but he doesn't want all the other shit that comes with it. And he's like a child when he first leaves Starbase. Like this is Archer in his infancy. He grows throughout this entire series. By season 4, he's a fucking badass. He's like Kirk badass, right? So
True.
it's one of
It's
those
just-
things that this is a
Jody-
progression for him.
I would agree with that. It's a progression, but being the first captain on the first ship out of Earth, whatever, solar system, he's
First
gotta
Warp
be-
5 ship. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be a little more, I think, tactful.
But that's something that's learned. You got to remember, this is the first for everything. The first time you drove like shit.
Yeah,
right?
but here's the
It's
thing:
the same thing. We all do that.
I feel
and-
like he doesn't act like a captain. He acts like
No,
I
agree. Yeah,
take
He's
that
like the
line-
proxy for humanity.
but
Right.
but think about it this way: he's the first captain of the first ship. How are you supposed to act? He doesn't know. He's got to
Okay.
learn all this shit, and he's going to have to learn, trial by
Even
fire.
if he just
right?
acted like Tucker, I would be more impressed. Like
Well,
you-
and I agree with you
Remember
on
the
that,
line
yeah.
from Saving Private Ryan? You don't gripe down, you gripe up.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and he's
Yeah,
always
gripes
griping
go down, complaints go forward. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, and I completely agree. And in a way, this is kind of when you have Mr. I've had access to all of this technology when I was a kid. This kid's got warp reactors in his living room. Like it's like because his dad was this guy who was working all this stuff. He's been spoiled. Like, it's clearly he's a spoiled man. Like, you can tell he is, just how he acts. He's a spoiled jackass at the beginning, and he humbles up as he starts losing people, as he starts getting into fights, as he starts getting his ass kicked. Because this show, the one thing I love about this show is this show kicks the ass of the crew. And it does hard. Like, yeah, we've had those things in all the other series. You know, look at DS9. DS9's a perfect example. They went through the Dominion War, all that stuff. Like, it was kicking their ass. But this show constantly kicks their ass because they're always screwing up. They're always doing something dumb. And because they're the first to do it, they don't know any better. They're just going to do it. Like, who goes back to a ship that's got, like, 150 hanging dead bodies being harvested by an alien?
It was 15 guys, and
okay,
the reason I bring that up was because, like, T'Pol's like, "How many were there?" He's like, "I don't know, a dozen. Who's to say?" And then Tucker's like, "Count of 15," or Reed says, "I think."
Reed's like, okay, I didn't even catch that.
I can count to 15. I don't know why the captain can't, but I can.
But he's so enraged with the situation, he doesn't care. Like, and that's. But let's put us into his shoes. He's been thrown onto a ship where he's going to, his first mission is to go take a Klingon home, which should have went well but didn't go according to plan. And on top of that, he's been kind of thrusted into this, but it's almost like he didn't want to be, right? And we kind of got a glimpse of that in the first episode. He wants the excitement, but he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing as a captain. They've just been giving it to him. Like, the guy, yeah, he's going through certain training, obviously. That was already told, but like Hoshi, for instance, I would say Hoshi, for instance, has no real good training other than standard basic firearms and stuff like that, right? Like, they even mention it when they're, getting ready. What are you signed off on? Oh, phase 12, firearms and, phase rifles or something like that. She says pulse rifles or something. It's, if we put ourselves in his situation, yeah, he's a spoiled brat who thought everything was just going to go nice, hunky-dory and swimmy. No, space is dangerous. Space sucks. And everybody you're going to come across could potentially try to kill you all the time. It's the Wild West out there. That's what it is. And that's really what Star Trek was. That's what Gene Roddenberry wanted it to be. He wanted it to be the Wild West in space, right? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. This is what that show is showing you. Right. So that's the reason why I think it is. But, obviously everybody has a different interpretation of it. But, I personally, yeah, I think he's a total whining asshole. He's one of those guys. But if you look at it from, as somebody who has seen the entire series, it really does progress. And Adam, I think you've seen the whole thing yourself as well. Right. So yeah, you definitely can acknowledge that, he gets much better as things go on. He starts to understand it.
Jody, one thing that I was just thinking about this as you're talking about, 20 years ago, I was
ranting.
30. I was 30 and I'm doing a very different job and doing no kids yet and all that kind of thing. And then probably
good times.
About that time in my life, I think that this didn't annoy me as much. And here, 20 years later, I watched this and I go, how did I get beyond these first couple episodes?
Absolutely. And I think that was one of Kevin's major gripes of the show.
Some of us didn't.
I never did. I've seen maybe the first 3 or 4 total, and then I'm always like, no, this is not for me.
And a lot of the fan base did. They watched this first season and they just didn't get onto the show, and it it made it to 4 seasons, luckily, but it like they kind of started course correcting maybe in season 2. We'll figure it out as we go, but like there was some parts of it that just weren't it didn't draw you in. I think because the characters in some cases aren't as likable as the other shows. I think that Archer is not a very charismatic character.
Archer is the Wesley of this show.
Yeah, but he's the captain. If Wesley was the captain, TNG would not have necessarily done so well.
Well, it didn't do so well in the first couple seasons either. So
like Doogie Howser in space.
In a way, I think you're completely right.
15 years old.
Yeah, I love that.
You know what? You're kind of there. I can't argue with that. It's pretty good. And T'Pol is essentially the den mother who's basically saying, you know what, children, yes, you're out in space, and yes, we are going to do exciting things, but we really have to run rules here, because if we don't run rules, we're going to run into people trying to harvest bodies and stuff.
Yeah, and there's definitely something. I did want to also mention. I love these
These are
suits.
great.
The
These are
space
great.
suits.
I'm completely 100% with you. These were inspired specifically by First Contact, which obviously, as we all know, happened just shy of that. They wanted a more submarinian version of the fancy white suits that I guess it was Worf, Picard, and the guy who ends up dying. Hawk. That's right. Yeah. Ends up in when they're walking on the external of the ship, they use these environmental suits. These are a basic version of it, and I think they did a great job. I don't know about you guys, but
I love them. I think that they just the helmet, everything about like that. They did a lot of different EV suits before this, and this was the best version they ever did. I thought.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like is the neck part, because they show at some points the neck isn't connected, and then at other points that it is connected. I think it was just a continuity thing. But that kind of drove me nuts. But past that, what can you do, right? But I like them. I think they look great. I
love my uniforms.
I knew you were going to mention it, Dave. Let's put it that way.
And this is something we hadn't seen. You get the close-ups of them. Like they got the assignment patch on them. It's neat. Anyway,
so basically, obviously, they end up running into this alien race. They get some shots shot on them, blah blah blah, back and forth.
Wait! You got to talk about the ship. That's a pretty cool ship.
It is a cool ship. Yeah. Do we have a picture of that, Dave?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now. One sec.
Awesome. Yeah. Go ahead, Adam. You can take this.
Well, compared to, first of all, the freighter. I mean, really, it was a freighter that they ran into, where the 15 aliens are dead. And Enterprise is a pretty cool looking ship, but when you saw this looks like a menacing, scary.
After that, Dave.
It's way after that.
Oh yeah, you're right at the beginning.
Yeah, and I love this scene too when they shoot at it and it just does nothing.
It just bounces off the shields.
Yeah.
But that further proves exactly what I'm saying is these guys are growing up in space. They have no idea what they're coming across.
Yeah, right then, Jody.
I was waiting for Q to show up and say, "You don't belong here."
Yeah, I need to get the heck out of here because I'm not going to win this fight.
Yeah. You need to tuck your tail between your legs and fucking run away. That's what you need to do. So yeah, you're way off, Dave.
I'm almost there.
No, you're good 15 minutes away. But anyway,
15 minutes away.
Oh yeah,
I'm in the last about 15 minutes of the show.
All right, you're getting there then. Anyway, but yeah, no, the ship design is amazing. I thought that was really cool, and it doesn't conform to the standard ship of the aerodynamic ship. It basically looks almost like a cross between some sort of Last Starfighter type ship and the crystalline entity. it's all over the place. There it is. Yeah. Well, not the best shot in the world, but it's doable. But yeah, I thought it was really neat. The ship designs in this show, I think, consistently surprised me.
Who is this supposed to be? Like, I wonder. Like, I guess we never meant to know.
We don't know. We never know. It's an unknown alien race.
Our ship blows them up after they get clear. They're like, "See you never." And boom.
They were the last of their kind.
Yeah. Well, maybe they were. We don't know. Maybe that was the last ship, right?
Fluid harvesting for you. They're kind of like they. I had a feeling like they were almost like the Vidians from Voyager or something. Like they were harvesting body fluids, or
which kind of makes sense because they did that through Voyager, Voyager,
again,
especially the first couple seasons.
Like from the look of the ship, you think it's going to be armed to the teeth. Lots of shields, big armaments, and then the freighter.
No big problem. Yeah, no big problem for the Axonarians.
No problem. They're like, boom, done.
They're like, yeah, no problem. But that also shows the fact how little, how such a tiny little dog they are in the big, huge dog pound that's going on right now, right? Like the Enterprise is not fitted for this mission at all. They finally have clued in. And this is something they address throughout the series. They're like, we got to upgrade weapons. We got to do this. We got to do that, which gives Reed something to do because Reed spends most of his time through, season 2 and 3 for sure, upgrading weapons. That's like his big thing, right?
Yeah, because
so
their weapons
always
suck.
coming up with new weapons. Oh, look at that.
Nothing was. Their torpedoes didn't work, and like their phasers.
Nothing
don't work.
useful going on. This was they should have called this Enterprise the Tuesday Enterprise because nothing was working right.
Everything got installed on Tuesday.
That's right. Tuesday when they get back.
I'm wondering about the relationship between the Vulcans and the humans because. They're there to guide them. They're there to, I guess, even protect them in a little way. But why wouldn't they have, upgrade, provided them some weapons?
Yeah.
It seems
Well,
like
because they're not interested in moving them forward.
not
I
very
think in a way,
fast.
yeah, I think in a way they almost look like the people from Earth is almost like a pet, right? Like, which is kind of sad to say when you think about it, but that's the way I kind of perceive what the relationship is. It's almost like they're trying to teach the toddlers how to swim. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to give them everything. They're just going to kind of throw them in the pool and hope they float, right? Which, I don't know
Which
if
is
you've
what-
ever seen those
which is
baby
what Archer
swimming
does to
classes.
Hoshi.
That's
He's
kind of what
like-
they do.
He's like, you got to talk to this Axanar guy. He doesn't know he's an Axanar, but he's like, you got to talk to this Axanar guy, even though the universal translator is not working, because she's like, I'll just make it worse. I have anxiety about my professional performance.
Yeah,
He's
it's like seriously, you shouldn't be.
We're about to all be killed and our lymphatic fluids extracted, so it couldn't get much worse. So
Once extraction comes up, you kind of have to start doing some business here.
Right.
Like,
also,
suck
there
it
was
up.
the earlier part where he was like, when they think they're about to start getting boarded, and he's like, Reed, get down to the armory, start handing out guns, right? You know, and then he pauses that for, and he was like, never mind, because this Axanar alien shows up. But I think you could have done both things at once. I think you could have armed people for the boarding party.
I thought that exact same thing. The ship shows up and then Reed just stops and looks at the screen. I'm thinking, don't you have something to do?
Here's my new theory. Reed sucks at his job. He's lazy. He had 2 weeks to work on these torpedoes. He didn't. He doesn't hand out guns when he's told to. Come on.
Can't disagree with you. Reed is a character who grows later on, and he really grows later on when I can't remember what the name of the group is that shows up.
The Makos.
The Makos, yeah, the Makos, which is I think it's a really cool addition to the show.
The Space Marines.
Yeah, they're basically Space Marines, and they go back out with them later on. So they go
thank
back to
God.
Earth. They pick up the Makos guys, which are essentially like the version of like
Red
Space
Squad?
Marines from like Aliens, the movie Aliens. They're like,
Break the perimeter,
hardcore.
man.
They're like, we'll fucking kill everything. We don't care what it is. We'll kill it. Right. And that's basically what they're even giving like the crew military training and stuff. But anyway, nothing to do with this episode. So we probably should be talking any more about it.
It's unacceptable.
It is unacceptable. And you know what? Reed is unacceptable because right now Reed literally has not much to do. And what he does have to do, he doesn't do it fast.
I agree.
So,
Get better at your job, Reed. You're
like
going
Reed
back.
is literally. I think the problem that we had with this show is going into the show, they had certain characters that they wanted to progress at certain times, and Reed was literally on the back burner. He was like one of the characters you don't really know much about Reed until maybe 3 more episodes in, and then they start explaining that his parents were British
Navy or something.
Yeah, British Navy or something like that. Like it's a naval tradition that he's on the ship and stuff like that. But anyway, but yeah, they essentially, the what are the guys, Axanarians or whatever?
Axanarians, yeah.
Yeah, they essentially have the firepower to easily destroy this menace. Just obviously they must have got caught off guard with the freighter ship or whatnot. But I think it's interesting to see that dynamic because usually it's like the Enterprise that has to fix everything going on, and literally it's the alien race fixing their own problems.
Well, no. It's not just
And they're
that.
just
I
kinda
mean,
there.
Yoshi.
Well, Hoshi did do some diplomatic stuff, right?
She finally got her confidence and was able to, translate and did a good job.
Yeah.
And, once that was understood, it gets back to the whole Dharma Tanagra. You got to be able to talk to your enemies and your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, they understood and blew the other guys out of the sky. So
yeah,
that was good.
In this episode, though, it is T'Pol that ends up being right.
Oh, of
Because
course.
if they had just left, then
No harm,
there
no
would have
foul.
been no confusion when the freighter showed up.
Well, they wouldn't have,
And he would have just destroyed
called
the ship that was there.
They called the freighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they
But-
were the ones that established it.
That's true.
It gave them a chance to establish political, like the
right,
Which maybe paved
Diplomatic.
the way for Kirk later on.
and the Federation and everything else like that. Yeah.
So Archer has to screw up so Kirk can look good. That's really what it comes down
Thank
to.
God.
Well,
So
hey.
then we essentially
Jody,
end with.
it's not it. We got to talk about Sluggo.
Oh, well, I was gonna just talk about Sluggo. So obviously Hoshi then with her newfound, I guess, a confidence, I guess, for lack of a better word. She gets her newfound confidence, and at this point, she has decided Sluggo needs to go to another planet because it's not fair for Sluggo to be sitting in Phlox's room where he's going to eventually feed it to something. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the bat, they will only eat
Especially
things
the
that
back.
the only things that are alive.
That's right, because it makes sense. It wants its food to have the ability to do that. There's a lot of animals on Earth that do that too. You know, if something's dead, they won't eat it. They gotta kill it from, you know, living to dead. So, but anyway, so here's
like the Pak Mara on Babylon 5, who only eat things if it's been dead for 3 days.
what's that show?
Babylon 5. I got Babylon 5
No,
reference.
I'm not familiar with it, but anyway,
Dave, Enterprise and Babylon 5. Like, come on, man.
like, are you trying to make Kevin have an aneurysm? Like, is that really what you're trying to do?
Kinda, yeah.
anyway, you know, so this is Hoshi. You know, last scene, her and Phlox are on this planet, and she's letting Sluggo, which I guess is what we're calling him, Sluggo, let loose on this planet because apparently it's got a good enough atmosphere and whatnot. And
It's not so hard to adapt, little slug.
The only problem
to adapt.
So here's the problem we have.
We're gonna
though.
do just fine here.
It's a pretty big problem, Jody.
This is a huge problem because if we learned anything from The Simpsons, when you bring in any sort of foreign species onto another environment, they're going to wreak havoc. And that's exactly what's going to happen. She may have doomed this entire planet by putting Sluggo on this planet.
Or fauna.
Yep. I think even
Phlox is actually kind of insane when you think about it, because Phlox is totally going along with this. Phlox is like, oh yeah, let's leave him there. Let's see what happens. Kind of thing.
Even better, a later story could have been this slug of the sun or something crashing into the planet beside, and then this slug taking over another ship to get back at Hoshi.
That's right.
Just
for
like
dooming him on the planet.
Just like Khan. Taking
over. There you go.
Is if T'Pol through like a I told you
Steady
so.
Alpha 8 for all we know, or
yeah. Oh, it became like a con worm. That would even be better.
And then he could like, you just hear the slug make a noise, and she's like, it said this is SETI Alpha 5.
This could be the Earth Slug. This could be the mom of the Earth Slug. Like, we don't know.
We don't know for sure. This is the
sure.
secret origin.
So, Adam,
yeah,
we missed something in the last episode. Do you know what it was?
Which episode? The one with this one or the last one?
Well, the last one. There's something that we normally do in these podcasts that we didn't do.
I don't remember, Jody. Oh, fun facts. Oh my gosh, I'm not ready for the fun facts this episode. Let me get ready for next week.
Do you want to go to ratings?
Let's just go to ratings.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to ratings. We do have a ticker for that. Jody, do you want to start us off?
I just screwed that up. Sorry. Anyway, you know what? This isn't as good of as good as the first episode, but I don't think it's terrible either. I'm going to give this a 7.
All right, over to Adam.
I give this a 6.
And a squeaky toy.
And a squeaky toy.
And a squeaky toy. The dog approves.
I actually think this is okay. I would give this I would go as high as 7.6.
Wow, Dave.
Come on, Kevin.
No, I'm gonna say.
I think Kevin's going to be the one that's going to give it to us. What?
6 as well.
6? All right.
It's not terrible, but there's room for improvement.
Oh, there's definitely room for improvement. Yeah. So.
Yeah. At the 6.7 average between the four of us tonight. This has a 7.1 on IMDb after 20 years. This is another Berman Braga writing effort, and we'll consider this a Hoshi episode if we're all comfortable.
Or Hoshi /
Slug. Let's put that.
It's definitely a coming of age tale about Sluggo.
Sluggo. When Sluggo
they basically did maroon that slug.
Yeah. They marooned that slug just to become a con worm and go into Chekhov's ear. That's what they were setting up. So the next episode, Jody, is called Strange New World.
It is, and that is when the Enterprise encounters a new world, much like Earth. A small crew stays on the surface overnight. They basically camp out because why not? You're in space, you might as well camp. And continues researching a planet. The violent storm forces the crew into the shelter of a local cave, but crew members believe they are not alone, Dave.
This is a good episode coming.
This one actually is a pretty decent episode. Now, we've seen this before. Like, this is not new ground for Star Trek at all. This is a trope that's happened many times on pretty much every single series, as far as I remember. I don't know about you
That's
guys.
good. I like tropes.
Do you like tropes? You like a little bit of
do.
a little bit of the common, eh?
Listen, I actually had this self conversation about how long it would take for you guys to say the word trope.
Really?
Second episode.
Sick. Okay, there you go. It's all about the tropes.
There you go.
Yeah, it took a long time.
Well, let's be honest. This show was trying to cater to fan service as well, and they did do a lot of, I will say, creative remakes of episodes of the past. So, it's there is some Star Trek original series episode reworks in here as well. Definitely a lot more action packed than the versions of them from that, but it's still an episode that is very similar to them. But it is overall, this is a decent episode. I remember this episode being fairly high on the ratings from what I remember.
This is a trip episode, in my opinion, coming.
It is a bit of a trip episode, yeah. It's not necessarily a bad one, though. I think it's better than this episode.
I'm looking forward to
what I
next
remember.
week. Looking forward to it.
So I guess the question that I have is, Kevin, are you still going to watch with us?
Yeah, of course. I said
All
I'd go
right.
to the end. Even if it's shit, I'll go. I'll do it.
Even if it's shit, I'm doing the whole thing, baby. All right. Well, I think that pretty much sums it up. Is there anything else?
Well, we have other things here on Live Long Podcast.
Dave,
Jody.
I was just going to segue to that. Say, Dave, I
Yes.
hear that there's other content on this channel.
There is, so we past and present, new and old, all kinds of things. So we've been doing a whole bunch of different rewatch podcasts for some time, starting with the Star Trek movies. We did that well over a year ago. Then we did the Star Trek original series rewatches. That's complete now. All 79 episodes are there. You can check those out in our playlist and descriptions. We just began this Monday night Enterprise rewatch, and we've been doing Deep Space Nine for some time now. Check that out on Tuesdays, led by Jeff Mader, my brother, along with, sometimes we have a pack station, sometimes it's a skeleton crew. Who's to say?
I've noticed that. Yes.
Yeah. But often with the Millards and Jaemeel and Davin. Check that out. We cover every episode, Deep Space Nine. Tomorrow we're doing For the Cause. And that's an episode where Michael Eddington betrays them to the Maquis. And when Penny Johnson, aka Cassidy Yates, goes to prison for helping the Maquis as well.
I will be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin.
So
I remember that episode.
I like the episode. I'm excited to talk about it. So we got the lucky loony himself, Michael Eddington. And then on Thursday this week, we are continuing our coverage of Star Trek Discovery season 4. We'll be talking about the newest episode, still untitled. It'll be the fifth episode 5 of season 4. Still don't know what it's going to be called. Adam, did you watch the last one?
No, it's my after this episode today. After we're done here, I'm gonna.
Okay, I won't spoil anything that happened.
I didn't want to soil anything.
I didn't want to soil it or spoil it. So check out Star Trek Discovery. We're covering that actively. Star Trek Prodigy is on hiatus, but we did the first 4 or 5 episodes of that show. And then Star Trek Lower Decks season 2 and season 1 is there as well in our coverage. And we have a show called Star Trek Radio Theater where we reenact the Star Trek scripts, the reads with some new interpretations. We're going to be doing this Sunday night. We're doing a live read of Star Trek First Contact. We're excited to bring that. We got many of us here from the Live Long and Podcast community involved with this. This will be our season 2 finale. And we'll be bringing that to you. Excited for that one. As it also has been 25 years since this particular movie came out.
You need to pick something with Scotty in it so I can participate.
Yes, we'll get back to the Scotty things. Definitely for season 3, which will be starting up in 2022. Can you believe it?
Hey, Dave.
Yep.
Did you guys do Relics?
We've never done Relics. No,
That would be a good one.
that would be a good one. We can get
now you're just giving me too much work to do.
We'll get Jody Scotty talking to Jeff Jordy, and then what?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Magic.
I love his Jordy. His Jordy's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, he's got a good Jordy.
Commander
Riker. That's his version of Jordy.
He does it better than you.
I know. And so anyway, we got all those things. Plus our other channels. We have Trivial Debates. It's a monthly show where we argue about movie, TV, sports. Jody, you just hosted one not too long ago. That you were hosting with Max Duda, Dylan Gonzalez, and Alex Blackburn. Max will be hosting the December edition, and Eamon Mader will be competing. I just don't know who the other two contestants are yet. So we are working on booking that in, but that will be on December 27th. We're doing that the day after Boxing Day. And then Super Mader Brothers Podcasting is our third channel where we talk about stuff that's not related to Star Trek, but it is related to movies and TV, including tonight, we're going to be talking about the Beatles Get Back documentary series, the part 3. I'll be doing that with Jeff Mader and the Shields brothers, Josh and Jake. That's starting at 9:35 tonight. We did talk about the previous 2 installments of that, so we'll be wrapping that up. Plus, we're talking about Survivor season 41 right now, every Wednesday. That finale is this Wednesday, December 15th. We're going to be that will be a 2-hour. We'll be going on a bit later as we're down to we'll be crowning the sole survivor season 41 and looking ahead to season 42. Talked about other reality shows, including Big Brother USA 23 and Canada 9. Looking ahead to Big Brother USA Celebrity Edition coming up this January, and other shows, including Marvel Cinematic Universe content. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home this Saturday, I think, and as that new movie is coming out this weekend. We did Eternals most recently, and we're looking ahead to Hawkeye in a few weeks as well when that wraps up. I think that's everything. Also, check out Locutors of Trek, Davin's Star Trek podcast, where he does all kinds of different Star Trek activities, including Debate 9. That's like a debate show with like Star Trek. And then he's got like the Geetal Challenge, where he does like Klingon challenges, and he does like.
I want to know why I haven't been invited. I even promote this man's channel, and he doesn't invite me.
You should. I keep telling him.
You know
Jody's
what?
waiting for.
I'm
the
gonna have to
Davin.
message him. I'm gonna message him.
You're gonna have to get on that.
I'm beginning to think I'm not wanted.
No,
and I know
don't
that's
think
not
that.
true.
I know he needs people for something. He was doing something coming up, so he probably would love to have you on.
Oh,
so
maybe.
Davin, if you're watching, Jody Simpson.
If you're watching, I'm eagerly awaiting my Gmail account.
Yeah, there you go.
I wish to have an email.
Anyway, so that's it for everything here on the content. Check out, like I said, check out our Beatles coverage tonight if you're caught up on that that documentary series.
You're into that.
If you're into that kind of stuff. And that I think that's it. So
all right. Well, for all of us here, thank you for watching, and yeah, I guess we're done. So we have an outro or anything? I don't even know if we have an outro.
I just usually play a clip.
Just play it then.
All right.
They are preparing to mate.
They are.
Do you think they might let me watch?
We'll see.
I hope they
All
do.
right. Live Long in Podcast, everyone. Good night.